Hello, and welcome back to Read the Coverage Sports. So, today we're going to be taking a look at the top 5 quarterback prospects with some sleepers in the upcoming NFL draft. Let's get to it. Alright, so just kind of going over how I've broken down these guys. These are all, I would say, 95% based on what I've actually recorded, the film that I've broken down, what I've looked at, everything like that. There's going to be maybe just a little bit just a personal feel just on what I've seen, what I've heard, and different things like that. And the next thing to remember is that these are not where I project them to go, as in where in the draft. We'll get into that in a little bit, but just purely where I would put them on my top 5 big board. So let's go ahead and get into it. Up first, I think there's no real questions asked. It's Joe Burrow. I think he's just phenomenal. He's heads and shoulders above the rest, I believe, in this quarterback class in terms of, I think he could come in day one and be a starter. I think he has the potential to be a long-term starter for quite a while. He's a franchise quarterback material. Now, will that end up happening? It'd be less based on him, more based on if he ultimately does end up going to like the Cincinnati Bengals, which is where the projections are putting him at right now. We'll see how that goes. Cincinnati has issues with all sorts of different things, and we'll see where that goes. But I think heading above everybody else is Joe Burrow. While we are looking at top 5, Joe Burrow is I'd say he's pretty well ahead of everybody else, even the number 2. So moving on into number 2, we've got Tua from Alabama. I think Tua has the potential to be a franchise quarterback in himself. There are questions, there are concerns, particularly when we look at injuries and things like that. But I think for the most part, in a perfect situation, I think he is franchise quarterback caliber. I don't think he's quite up to Joe Burrow's ability and everything like that. I think Joe Burrow has the potential to be a much better quarterback in the NFL. But I don't think you can go wrong with Tua. I think Tua is just phenomenal. I think between Joe and Tua, they're leaps and bounds above everybody else on this list, even the number 3 guys. And going on from there, I think these are the 2 for surefire picks. Obviously, we're taking injuries out of the equation with Tua. If injuries happen, then that's, it's not really his fault, but that's something to be aware of. That could be a concern moving forward. Moving on to our number 3, we have Jordan Love out of Utah State. Jordan Love is a prospect, but he has more to offer as a prospect than I think some of these other prospects that we're going to get into. When we talk about strong arm guys, there's guys that have a strong arm, and then there's guys that have like a special arm. And Jordan has the potential to have a special arm. He was able to make throws that you just how did that happen? That's video game type throws. It's hard to evaluate Jordan on a lot of different aspects, in particular if you look at how his senior year or his last year went. There's a lot of factors to include into that. He lost, I think, 9 of the 11 starters on offense. He had a new head coach, new offensive coordinator, new scheme, everything like that. So there's a lot of changes that were going on with Jordan that you can't hold against him. But one of the great things that I saw out of Jordan Love is as the year progressed and he got more comfortable, his receivers got more comfortable, everything like that, he progressively got better. Now, are there issues? Yes. There's a lot of decision-making things that it's hard to really gauge based on the scheme change and everything like that. But when you compare him to his year before last and this last year, you can just see where the potential is with Jordan Love. And that's where I put him there more as a potential pick. I think he's a guy that's going to have to sit. And if he has the opportunity to sit, then he could be special, like real type special. We're not going to talk Patrick Mahomes because it's not fair to compare anyone to Patrick Mahomes. But there are some similarities when we're talking just about pure arm talent. Moving on from there, now we got Justin Herbert. So Justin Herbert's an interesting one. For those of you who have seen the video, I've talked about it. I am not necessarily a fan of Justin Herbert. Honestly, he's one of the guys, the more I watch him, the less and less I like him. There's just all these little things that, for a guy that's projected to go as high as Justin's supposed to go, it blows the mind why these things are happening or aren't happening. Little routine throws, passes, like screen passes, slants, things like that should be just gimme type throws. He's missing. There's inconsistencies with his mechanics, inconsistencies with his footwork. Decision making is questionable. It's one of those, I understand on one end why all the people are talking about Justin. He's got a cannon of an arm. The dude can throw it. But unlike Jordan Love, I wouldn't say Justin Herbert has a special arm. I would say Jordan has a special arm. Justin Herbert just has a strong arm. And unfortunately, as is the case with pretty much every year in the draft, whenever there's a guy that comes out that has a really strong arm, People will get wowed by that. That's something that people will put you up on the draft board just because you have a strong arm. He's prototypical size, he's big, he's tall, he's got a strong arm. But I don't know that people are really looking past that and really looking at him as a quarterback prospect, which I just don't think there's a lot to like. I have issues. I have a lot of issues, actually, with a lot what Justin does. He has very little to no touch on the ball. He's not great at going through his progressions. For a guy as athletic as he is, I question his pocket awareness and pocket presence. When things collapse around him, he's done. There's just not a lot of great things there. But every now and then he'll make a real awesome laser special type throw, and that when guys see that, yeah, if you look at just the highlights, yeah, you could see Justin Herbert going up really high in the draft. But when you really break it down, when you go and you watch games, look at Utah game, look at the Washington game, look at his bad games. And a lot of that's because what he's doing. It's not the team around him. Now, you got to remember, a team like Oregon, they have talent. So he should be able to put up these video game numbers, but I just never saw really the progression year to year to year. And he had multiple years starting where you can really kind of gauge how a guy's progresses. And I just never really saw that. I saw the talent around him get better. And yeah, he did go through some scheme changes and things like that. For the most part, he was in a very similar offense throughout the course of his college career. So questionable. I think of all the guys here, Justin has potential to be the biggest bust, just simply because teams are talking about taking him really high in the draft. I've seen some people project him going up above Tua, being the second quarterback taken out of the draft, and I just think that's ridiculous. I think I wouldn't even really put Justin as a first round pick. I think he is like a second round, third round type pick. You let him sit for a year or two, maybe you could get those mechanics fixed. And if you can do that, I think you have the potential to have a good, solid quarterback, but I do not think he's a franchise quarterback, really, by any stretch of the imagination. Now, I hope I'm wrong. He seems like a really great kid, and I hope he does well, but I just don't see it based on the film. All right, next up, we've got Anthony Gordon, which this is kind of a surprise pick. Not a lot of people are really talking about Anthony Gordon. He's had some hype early. It's kind of faded off. He's kind of been lost in the conversation. I do think, as of right now, he's pro-ready. He can come out, and I think he could be successful in NFL just based on what he can do as far as throwing the ball. He's not a cannon of an arm type guy, but he is capable of making all the throws that you need a quarterback to make. He throws a good anticipation. He's got fairly good pocket communication. He can move around, pocket presence, things like that. Some things that he struggles with is, while he does not have a super strong arm, and then sometimes some of his mechanics are a little bit iffy, but I think with the refinement he could do that. This is a guy that I think that could come out and could be successful early, especially earlier than a guy like Justin Herbert. So those are my top 5 guys. Going back through it, we got Joe Burrow, Tua, Jordan, Justin Herbert, and then Anthony Gordon. Now, moving forward, I've got 2 guys in particular that I want to talk about that I kind of has as my sleeper. And moving on to that, first up, we've got Jalen Hurts. So Jalen Hurts is a really interesting prospect. I don't think he's getting quite the attention he probably deserves. A lot of people are talking about, he needs to change positions, maybe be a wide receiver, maybe a running back, H-back, this, that, or another. And I think that's kind of ridiculous. I compared Jalen Hurts a lot to what Deshaun Watson was coming out of the draft. People were really looking down on Deshaun Watson. They're like, we're not going to take him. And then look how that ended up. Now, I'm not going to say that Jalen's going to beat Deshaun Watson. Deshaun was way more polished as a pure passer coming out of college than Jalen is. But Jalen has something that is really hard to teach because you can't teach it. He's got that it factor. He's a winner. He's a gamer. He goes out there and he plays ball and he balls out. And that's something you can't teach. Either you have it or you don't. When the lights come on, Jalen's out there and Jalen's making plays, and I think that's something that's really important. Now, again, I think early in his career, Jalen's best type of role would be something like what the Saints are doing with Taysom Hill, have a kind of a slash role where he comes in sometimes as a quarterback, sometimes as this, sometimes as that. But at the end of the day, he is a quarterback. And I think if he gets in the right system, if he gets behind a guy and he gets to learn how to be quarterback, learn how to really play, learn more of the more finer details, I think Jalen could be special. And I think Jalen could be the biggest boom out of this draft prospect group. All right, and then finally for my sleepers, I've got James Morgan at FIU. This is a guy that's not getting a whole lot of conversation. There's been a little bit here or there. James isn't the kind of guy that's going to wow you on the tape. There's nothing he does that's real special or anything like that, but he's consistent. I think his decision making is really good. I think he has all the tools necessary to be a really solid starting NFL quarterback. I'm not going to predict him as a franchise type guy, but I do think he has all the tools necessary to go out there, take a job, become a really quality backup maybe, and give you good, solid, quality reps. But anyway, that is all our guys there. Now, there are guys on here that could potentially kind of move up and down. You've got guys like Jacob Eason, guys like that have the potential to do really well. As my top 5, they didn't quite fit in there, and I wouldn't necessarily call them sweet sleepers. They're more quality type backup type guys. But really, these are my 5 guys. Obviously, Joe Burrow is the guy, and I think Tua's, while not quite as far up as Joe Burrow, he is, I would say, a franchise quarterback, injuries permitting. Justin Herbert's the one guy I would really look out for. I think he has bust written all over him because he's going to get taken really early. He's going to get expected to play really early, and it's just not going to do him well. But anyway, guys, that is it, and we will see y'all next time.